Yo, what is up, everybody? We are out here in the park on a beautiful sunny day, as you can see. Pretty awesome. Got the sun shining in my face, so I thought I would come out. So today we're going to be talking about who wrote the Bible. So this will be kind of like an add-on or spin-off, or not really a spin-off, but like an add-on, like a part 2 to kind of talking about why the Christian God doesn't exist. And this is actually another reason why. I don't believe I put this in the video last time, but I remember that this was one of the reasons why I had mentioned before. So basically the reason why Christian God doesn't exist, I already talked about that, but we're going to talk about who wrote the Bible. So I actually brought this question up to some of the people that I know that are Christian, and they're relatively close to me. And I asked them, I was like, you know, something that I find really interesting with a lot of Christians is they say that like they're very passionate about their beliefs. They quote the verses and things like this from the Bible, but then when I ask them about the history and the backstory and like where the Bible came from, they don't have any answer at all. Like there's no, you know, you would think if, like, so for example, if someone, let's say they're a constitutionalist, someone's really into the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, things like this, and obviously on there they have people who have signed the Constitution. I believe it was like Thomas Jefferson and other people, things like that. I don't even know all the names of the people because I don't really care. It's a list of a bunch of ideas and rights that you allegedly have, so it doesn't really matter anyways. But you would think that if you asked someone who was a constitutionalist, someone who is very passionate about the Bill of Rights, Constitution of the United States, that they would be able to tell you some of the people who wrote the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, things like this. And there actually are like names of people who signed that, right? So, but when I do the same thing with people who are pretty passionate Christians, you know, they do a lot in the church and things like this, they can't tell me who wrote the Bible. So, and what I mean by who wrote the Bible, I know a lot of times in the Bible, or a lot of places in the Bible, it says like, you know, like the book of Mark, book of John, book of Peter, things like this, where it's like people maybe on the surface, if they were to just answer that question directly, which usually even then they don't answer the question, but they maybe could just say, oh, it was like all the disciples and things like that, right? There's like different people and different letters. I don't even know exactly all of the books and all that personally, but I do know that, you know, there's Book of Mark, things like that. So they would say, oh, well, those people wrote it. It's like, well, no, what I'm talking about is the modern day Bible that we have now. Who pieced that together, and when was it pieced together? And then my question would even be, even if they did have the answer to that question, then my next question would be, well, who is the Bible that we have right now, has it ever been changed over those, you know, let's say the Bible was put together, because I think it was maybe the modern Bible was maybe put together in like 600 AD, I think is what it was. So let's say from 600 AD to now, that's 1400 years, right? Well, in that time, has the Bible ever changed? And it probably has to some extent, because the writing of like Old English was different, right, than like their modern English was. And then it was like, well, was the original Bible even written in English? And the Bible that we have nowadays, that's like spread out throughout like America, and then in particular, I mean, it's probably written differently in America, Europe, and all that. And that's like a whole other topic that we can talk about, like the way it's written for like different languages and things like that too, and mistranslations. Because I know a lot of people in the Arabic community who follow Islam, they say that that is something that happens with like the translations of the Quran. But anyways, back to talking about who wrote the Bible. So when I'm asking this question, is I'm asking who wrote and who pieced together the Bible, number one, and number two, who decided which books went into the Bible specifically by name. Who were those people back in the day, in the, like, say 600 AD, who actually pieced together the modern day Bible? A lot of these questions that I have on this topic are not answered, and I will admit I haven't done extensive research with like ChatGPT, looking online, looking at books, going to the library. I haven't done extensive research myself, but that's why I'm asking the question, is because Christians should know at least some of the answers to these questions, right? Like, it's not my job to know the answers to these questions necessarily. Obviously, if I want to argue for certain purposes, yeah, for like, and for certain reasons in arguing, knowing what your counter argument is really important, right, for in general. But it's not my job necessarily to know that, because I'm not the one who's passionate about being a Christian, right? So if someone asks these tough questions, well, this question I would think, personally, I would think is pretty basic, because if you're a Christian, typically you're very passionate about your religion, and so you should be passionate about the book of your religion, right? And if you are, how come no one can answer my question? And I haven't talked to thousands of people about this, but this is why I'm putting this on the internet, because I'm sure that there will be not thousands of people who watch it, but maybe there can be a couple people who will eventually see this and can answer this question. So I want to be very specific here, though. What I'm saying this is that who wrote the Bible and who decided, because I know that there's like certain books, like the books of Malachi or something like that, or I forget who it is, but there's like, I think you guys know what I'm talking about. There's like books that weren't included in the Bible because they weren't consistent with like the teachings, and they didn't match like the overall like message for like all of the revelations and writings and stuff like that and teachings. So then it's like, okay, well, so we just choose which, I don't know, like obviously you would, but then it's like, which scholars and who are these people specifically who decided what to be put in the Bible? And second off, I want to talk about, even more so with this, is who was the king, the ruling king at the time, who allowed this to happen, because you had to have money to have an education to know how to read and write, first off. Second off, you need to have money to be able to get someone to produce the books and pay them, and to be able to mass produce and be able to like distribute these and like teach people and stuff like that. So basically my point is that someone had to have money, and it would have been authorized under the king of the time, most likely, right? It's not just some random person. Like the church was very close with like the royalty, and the church had power, money, things like this, gold, all that type of stuff too, right? So my question is also who was the king that was reigning at that time? And the people who were in power of the church, the king, you know, the other politicians and whatever that were like ruling at that time, you're telling me that they had no influence or oversight over how the modern day Bible was written and how it was produced? Like, come on. Yeah, so you're telling me that there was no influence there at all, and there was no like double checking and who decided what went where in the Bible, and like the order and all these things. And because I don't even think the Bible is in chronological order anyways. I think you have like the Old Testament and the New Testament. So, but yeah, I just kind of want to shed a little bit of light on this, because I think this is a pretty big issue that people who follow Christianity don't know any of the names of the priests who decided what books went into the Bible. There's no knowledge of, okay, was it King of England, let's say Henry VII? I don't know if that's who it could have been at that time or whatever, but Henry VII of like 610 AD that decided these things and put together this project. It's like the same thing with like a lot of scientific studies and things that people find and come to conclusions with like these studies, is like, okay, who's funding them, right? And did they have any influence? Obviously, like, because you need money to be able to do scientific funding and research, and then they're controlling the whole publication of said research, right? So it's kind of like the same thing with like, that's kind of like an issue with like scientism as well. It's like, who are these people? And then let's say, for example, with the Bible, we do have the names of the people. Someone ends up getting research, they have found it. How do we actually know that those people did it, and who at the time was recording that information? It's just, so this is like kind of like a separate topic that I probably want to get to on at some point, is about like history pretty much being made up. It's not really like reality at all, because there's no way, like there's only, oh yeah, that's actually another topic that I want to make, but maybe I'll keep that separately. But yeah, there's no way for us to verify this, like the idea and concept of like what happened in the past and like history. So even if there were names, basically the point is that I'm trying to make is like these simple questions like can't even be answered. But even if there were, it still wouldn't prove that the Christian God does exist. So anyways, we're kind of coming to the end of this video, and I think I'm kind of running out of ideas here, but I think you guys pretty much get the gist of what I'm saying here. We're at our 10-minute mark now, so I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.